Hello and welcome to GMBN where today we're going to look at the best ways to remove rust from a bicycle chain. Now here at GMBN, our viewers are really creative and frugal with finding alternatives to products in the cycling market at home, basically. So I've taken inspiration from that and I want to see if I can get rust off this chain with obviously rust remover, but to see if any other household items, say this white vinegar, Coca-Cola and baking soda, will do just as good a job. So let's give it a go. Now, I've never done this before, but I'm guessing it's going to be super messy. So either wear some old clothes or get yourself a pinny like this one. And you're going to be working with some pretty aggressive stuff here. So I would get some protective gloves as well if you can. I've also got a couple of old containers like this, just some takeaway containers, where I can pour the Coca-Cola and the white vinegar into there because they need to soak. The bicarbonate and the rust remover will need some scrubbing. So I've got a little detailing brush here, or a drivetrain brush. And I've also got some brass, nylon and some steel brushes just to see if they do an even better job. So I've just split the chain up just for experimental purposes. So you know we've used the same chain and so I can give it a proper soaking. But for you guys, you don't need to break it up. Right, experiment one is cola. Now I've got the branded Coca-Cola because that's what I've heard was good. But I'm sure any other cola unbranded version should work. Go for full fat, full sugar. And we're gonna need to soak the chain in this. So I'm gonna pour it into one of my old containers here. Now the idea behind this one is that you soak the chain in your cola drink and basically leave it for an hour, maybe two, keep an eye on it. You don't wanna leave it overnight or a couple of days because it could start eating away at the metal. What's fascinating about this is it's actually fizzing up around the chain. So it is starting to react with the rust, I believe. So we'll leave that for about an hour, get back to it and see how it's done. Okay, so let's see how our cola has done. I'm just gonna get a little cloth here to put it on. And well, it hasn't changed just by soaking it, but the others have needed a scrub. So I'm gonna get a little detailing brush here and see if it's done the trick. Right, after maybe 10-15 seconds of scrubbing it, much the same time as the others, it's just kind of taken the rust off, but it's also made a bit of a sludgy paste as well. So it's not as quick, I don't think, even if this does work. But I feel like I'm just making a different kind of mess on my chain at the moment. So next up is the white vinegar. You don't need this much, but you do need your old container. Just like the cola, we're gonna pour it into the container, just enough to cover the chain and then leave it to soak. So you just wanna put your chain in there to soak for an hour or two, and already it's not fizzing up like the cola is, which is interesting, but it is acidic, so it's not fizzy, so it will work in a different way. So I'm really excited to see if that will work just as well. So let's leave it to soak for a bit. So the white vinegar, now much like the cola, we've soaked this for about 20-30 minutes. So let's see what it's done already. I've got a little wire brush here. Let's give it a scrub. Ah, that's actually coming off quite nice. So what's interesting about the white vinegar is that with scrubbing, it brings it up really nice. Actually, it's really nice and shiny. It's done a really good job. Quite quickly, same as the soda and the rust remover, I reckon, in time and effort. Although I have used a wire brush. But interestingly enough, I could actually wipe most of the rust off with just a cloth. So again, if you're using something at home like white vinegar, then a cloth will probably take most of the rust off if you just want to be gentle with it. But if you're doing a chain like this, I think a wire brush is best. Next up, I'm going to use the baking soda. Now, I've got a branded one here, but I don't think it matters what brand it is. And it says trusted for cleaning all of your kitchen. Well, we just need to clean our chain. So what we need to do is get the chain probably in a tray or a surface you don't really care about. And we're going to make a paste with this with a little bit of water. Just add a little bit at a time until you've got the paste that you kind of want to work with. So I've made my little paste here now. And so I'm just going to apply it to the chain and start scrubbing. Now, I've never used this stuff before, but apparently you can clean your whole kitchen with it. And it even says on the back, you can scrub your face and your feet with it. So yeah, it is supposed to be gentle stuff, and maybe that's a good thing for you if you're just perhaps restoring a vintage bike and you don't want to be too aggressive, because apparently this won't scratch, and with a nylon brush it should be a little gentler too. Ha! I think it's working. That is amazing. I've literally scrubbed it for about 15 seconds with a nylon brush and pretty much all the rust is gone. So yeah, that's amazing. That does really work. And maybe I should start using it in my kitchen more often. Right, well, obviously baking soda does work. It's removed it really quickly, but do bear in mind, I've just done one side of 2 chain links here, but you're gonna have to do an entire chain, both sides and the rollers. So it is effective and it's gentle, but it is gonna take you a really long time. Right, next up, I'm going to try the actual rust remover. So the instructions say to give it a good shake and spray it onto the chain and work it with a wire brush. So I've got my steel wire brush here, and work it for about 15 minutes, it says, until it starts to go grey, and then we can wipe it off with a cloth. So let's give that one a go. Okay, so it's already starting to work. That's been about 10-15 seconds with a wire brush, and that's coming up really nicely, actually. Now, apparently it says if it starts to go dry, you need to keep it wet with the solution. So I'm just going to keep that moist until it's all done. Wow, that's actually really good. I'm really impressed with that. So it's no surprise that the rust remover did what it said on the tin. It's removed the rust, but you're going to have to work this all the way over the chain, both sides and in the rollers. So much like the baking soda, it's going to take some time. I'd also say because you have to use a wire brush, it's not going to be as gentle on any parts that you care about. Say if you're restoring a vintage bike, maybe a wire brush isn't ideal. And also it's a lot more potent than the baking soda. So I had to definitely wear gloves for that. And it's quite fumey, so I would have a window open as well. So in conclusion, most of them worked really well, except for experiment number 1 with the cola. It just kind of made a bit of a brown sludgy paste on the chain. So I wasn't really impressed with that, although it looked like it was going to do a good job at the start. I'm wondering if you probably need to soak it for more like 1 or 2 hours. It probably will work, but I don't really trust leaving metals in cola for more than an hour or 2. The white vinegar though, that worked really quickly, really well. Obviously it requires a bit of elbow grease, but the chain that I worked on, it came off with a cloth, which is nice to know, but best results are with a wire brush. The baking soda was great. It did exactly the same as the white vinegar, but you are going to have to brush all of this paste off or wash it off when you finish as well, which is a slight niggle, I would say. And then the rust remover, as we expected, it did what it said on the tin. It removed rust, and actually, interestingly, it's still working on the rust bits that I didn't scrub. It's kind of looks like it's fizzing up and still working. So unlike the white vinegar, I think the actual rust remover would still be working while you're scrubbing the other chain links. So it's quite possible that doing an entire chain, it would be a lot quicker with that formula. So once you've done that, just make sure that you wash any product off your chain, dry it out and lubricate it before you put it back on your bike. But what did you think to this test or this experiment? Have you experimented yourself with any products in your home? Let us know down in the comments below and help out the GMBN community with some future hacks.